You look so beautiful today. You're just radiating a wonderful vibration of love. A woman goes to her priest. She's very concerned because she has two female parrots, and she said, "Father, I have a problem. Whenever my parrots speak, parents either, did I say parents? Parrots speak, the only thing they say is, 'Hey cutie, want to have some fun?'" And she says, "I just don't know what to do." And the priest said, "Well, don't worry, I have two male parrots, and all they do all day long is pray and read the Bible, and I think they can help turn your parrots around." So the next day she comes over and she brings her parrots and she puts them in the cage with the two guys, and sure enough, they're not in there but a few moments, and the female parrots say, "Hey cutie, want to have some fun?" And the two male parrots look at each other and say, "Hallelujah, praise God, put that Bible down, our prayers have been answered." Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Well, I want to begin with this quote. "First of all, let us tell you that it makes no difference what the doctors have done or said. It makes no difference what the examinations and the x-rays have shown. You have placed your faith in doctors and the hospital for a sufficiently long period now. So let's forget them and turn our attention to God and study and understand His way and receive God's help." Now, those words, and many like them, were written by Myrtle Fillmore, who came to be known as the Mother of Unity. And as we continue in our series of spiritual wisdom for healing, which I need this morning for my throat, I want to share with you some of Myrtle Fillmore's letters so that you can get an idea. You already, I think you know, having been in Unity a long time, but if you're new to Unity, you're going to be able to catch a glimpse of her consciousness and be blessed by her teachings of health and wholeness, and exactly see where the foundation of our faith came from. But first I want to share just a little bit about Myrtle, her biography, and some fun facts about her that's done by Neil Valle in his book Torchbearer to Light the Way. That's his biography of Myrtle. She was born Mary Caroline Page, August 6th in 1845. And if you're good at math, that's 172 years ago. And she died in 1931, but her truth and the legacy of healing that she brought to the world is still very much alive today. In her words, in her letters, that I'm going to share some of them with you today, and in her teachings. As a child, she was known as a dreamer, a funny, peculiar little girl with wispy hair, and she said she often felt awkward when people laughed at her funny ideas. But she said she knew there was nothing too good or too beautiful to be true. And she said in what she called the designing room of her mind, she was creating a beautiful world and determined to make patterns for a beautiful world. She lived out her childhood dreams, as many of us know, by co-founding Unity School of Christianity with her husband Charles, and it was for the purpose of studying the life and the spirituality as demonstrated by Jesus Christ, to study the teachings of Jesus Christ. And to give you an idea of when she was offering what we call our New Thought teachings on the planet, she completed high school when the Civil War was underway. And a short time after she graduated, President Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. So these teachings that she's been bringing forward that even now seem revolutionary for how we process life and how we live life seem amazing. She enrolled in the literary course for ladies at Oberlin College and had completed a year of studies because women weren't eligible then for 4-year college programs. So she finished her 1-year college program. And as a side, Myrtle and Charles were ordained in 1906. But they received diplomas, but not ordination certificates. So in 1918, 12 years later, they took a final exam so they could receive ordination in unity. And it was a test of 68 questions written by Charles. And so Charles scored 100%. And Myrtle scored 98.5% because Charles graded her paper and she overlooked one question. She left it blank. And on another question, he said it was less than perfectly answered. But they were both presented really ornate, beautiful ordination certificates. And as ornate as they were, Myrtle took her certificate and struck through every place it said him and wrote her. Because she said she was determined to make patterns for a beautiful world. So even then, the sacredness of each individual, gender inclusive, Myrtle was living that. As many of you are aware of her story, she was diagnosed at an early age with tuberculosis, and it was after a lot of seeking and a lot of years of suffering that she discovered the truth about herself that healed her, that she was God's child, and as such, she was not subject to the ills of the flesh. This is a hard one when we're sick, to say, I'm not subject to the ills of the flesh. I don't care what's going on in my body. I care about it only so much as to deny away any negativity and to affirm life and health. She was not subject to the ills of the flesh. She decided and she learned that she could work in cooperation with God and with spiritual laws to receive healing. And when the Fillmores moved around a lot in the early days, Charles was a stagecoach driver. There were a whole host of history that you can read in the story of Unity. But when they finally settled in Kansas City, Myrtle's condition deteriorated rapidly, and she had a flare-up of tuberculosis complicated by malaria, and she had all kinds of things going on. And she said at that point she had placed her faith in doctors and medicine. She was constantly doing what she called dosing herself with medication. And it was at that point the doctors said there was nothing more they could do for her, and they estimated she maybe had 3 months left to live. So it was then that Charles and Myrtle began to search diligently and eventually found what they called a constructive, practical relationship to their faith. They'd been, going to church, they were religious, they'd done that their whole lives, but they thought, wait a minute, we're sick and we're broke and we're, dying and our lives are a mess, and if there's anything to spirituality and to our faith, it should work for us. It should be practical, it should be constructive, and it should certainly give us better lives. So they began to search, and then they began sitting in prayer in their living room. They had a little study group in their living room, and they called it the Society for Silent Help, because they never asked anybody, they never thought they'd form a church, they never asked anybody to leave whatever their faith tradition was, and so they met one night a week in their living room, and they called it the Society for Silent Help, and they would sit in the silence, and they would affirm prayer and do what they called prayer and right thinking. And people began to get well. So Myrtle eventually developed the Society for Silent Help into what? Silent Unity, our worldwide prayer ministry. And she for over 40 years, Myrtle's name and Silent Unity were virtually synonymous in the minds of thousands of people. When she began Silent Unity, she was the only letter writer. She used to write letters to people, and they were long letters, really long letters, where she was teaching spiritual principle. She wrote by hand for many years, but then she developed typing skills. She did learn to type, but eventually the correspondence became so abundant that she had secretaries that handled her letters, but she still tried to write a personal note on each letter. The letters that she wrote paint a portrait of our most fundamental teachings in Unity, and they tell about her deep spiritual commitment to God, to Jesus Christ, and mostly to the practical application of spiritual principle to heal and transform your life. And so this morning I have a couple of her letters I'm going to share with you. I've excerpted them because they are so long. I've shortened them. So let me share a couple with you. I'll share one now. Let's see. She says, "Our dear Louise Wardell, of course we remember you, and we are very glad to hear from you. According to your faith, be it done unto you. Your faith has made you whole. We are uniting in prayers with yours, and with our spiritual eye of faith, we see you already made whole." And this is where she begins teaching. She says, "Just because the doctor says you have something is no real reason that there is anything seriously wrong. You know God, the great physician, proclaims your wholeness, and you can depend on him. His word is life and health. Deny out of your body, out of both your consciousness and your subconsciousness, all thought of fear in all of its phases along every line. It came to me a new way of putting this healing of the body into practice, and it's to remember that our co-partnership with God. Your own thinking is the formative power of God in action." When you think about that, your thoughts are forming the power of God. Your own thinking is the formative power of God in action. So when you keep the pattern of a whole and perfect body habitually before your mind's eye, and then use your words to bring forth that which you discern spiritually, there will be no room for negativeness to enter. Now, did you hear that spiritual practice? When you keep the pattern of the whole and perfect body habitually before your mind's eye, and use your word to bring forth that which you discern spiritually, life, health, wholeness, there will be no room for negativeness to enter. She says, you are getting rid of some old thoughts and old cells, and are incorporating some new ideas and radiant health and pure cells into your being. That's what you're doing. You're manufacturing new cells after this pattern of health and life and wholeness. During this house cleaning time, be busy keeping your thoughts strong and rejoice that you are every whit whole. So she said, in healing, what you are doing is getting rid of some old thoughts which have caused the cells of your body to produce after their kind. Thoughts of hate, anger, unforgiveness, resentment, unresolved grief produce illness in the body. Thoughts of love, harmony, and peace produce health in the body. Marvelous teachings, aren't they? Our foundation of unity. She had such great instruction. Now that letter was like 4 times that long, but you can read it if you read his book, Torchbearer to Light the Way. Patience and perseverance were 2 traits that Myrtle stressed the most in healing, because you're reworking the cells of your body. You're reworking the very infrastructure of your consciousness. She knew from her own experience that healing can take place over time. She had a 2-year period where it was revealed in her body that her cells have intelligence, and that powerful words of health affect them. What you say to your body, oh, I'm so fat. Oh, I'm so tired. Oh, I just can't believe how I used to be strong and now I'm not. My eyes, I just don't see like I used to. Well, I don't hear well. Everything you're saying to your body, Myrtle knew that her body's cells had intelligence and that powerful words affected them, whether those words are health or dis-ease. What are you saying to your body? You just can't say those things. She learned she could talk to her body in positive tones. The tone with which you talk to your body is important. And she learned that she could talk to her body in positive tones and that it would respond with health and life. And she lived 46 years beyond that 3-month diagnosis. It took her 2 years to infuse her body with life and intelligence and wisdom. But as she did that, she made her body whole again. So, When letter writers would complain that they'd tried and prayed and hadn't seen any results yet, or no immediate results, she understood their feelings and she encouraged them out of her own experience. She said, we demonstrate the law of good that Marty talked about in his meditation. We demonstrate the law of good by holding fast to spiritual principle in spite of what appears to the limited senses. You can't judge by appearances. It doesn't look like anything's happening, it doesn't. And we've been practicing this whole thing with the drought, right? The words that we've spoken into. When I got here to California, everybody was drought on the news, drought. Remember that? Do you remember? And I said, this isn't an I told you so, but we have to start talking about nourishing rain. You talk about what you do want, and the key is at the same time stay out of any thought about what you don't want. You can't have a divided mind. Health and life. And you can't judge by appearances because it doesn't look like things are changing right away. When people are dieting and they want to lose weight, and my sister-in-law does this all the time. She'll eat a piece of chocolate or a piece of bread and she goes, oh my God, I'm so bloated, my stomach's up. I said, you didn't put that weight on overnight. And you're not going to lose it overnight, right? But disciplined, constructive action toward healthy eating patterns will result in a healthy body. We demonstrate the law of good by holding fast to spiritual principle in spite of what appears to the limited senses. Myrtle said that she had prayed most of her life, that she was a religious person, but no matter how much she prayed, her condition worsened. And finally she said, I decided to ask God what was wrong. Where's the disconnect? I'm praying and I'm not getting any better. In fact, I'm near death. What's wrong? And the answer she received was passed along to thousands of people in the Silent Unity prayer work. And the answer she got, she said, the Spirit said to me, you have looked among your faults. Now look among your virtues. I thought that strange, but soon it came to me that I didn't feel as sweet and poised on the inside as I seemed outwardly. You know that seething inside where you're disconnected from the truth of who you are? Oh, how everything's great. And then on the inside you're going, I didn't seem as sweet and poised on the inside as I seemed outwardly. So I began to watch and redeem this state of mind. As I gained real poise and the ability to keep my thoughts and feelings truly free, I was healed and restored to the strength of normal functioning. So your mind has to be in alignment. I always kind of think of it, bless you, I always think of it as, the flow of spirit that Marty again talked about in the meditation, that there is this flow of spirit. I visualize it coming in and through me and out through my heart center, and then it draws back to me. And so that my breath becomes, there's no separation. There's nothing, I am life and health, I am life and health. I'm breathing out the life and health of God. It's flowing in and through my body. I am life and health. And then I'm attracting and drawing life and health to me until there's no obstruction in the flow. Not any in flowing out life and health through my body, not any in receiving the healing aspects. The Father and I are one, Jesus said. The Father and I are one. And it's this oneness, this where you're just permeated with and penetrated by life and health. There's no separation, no obstacle that gets in the way. The key to Myrtle's healing was never stress the sickness. She said, if you want to demonstrate, Fillmore's talked about demonstrating principle. That now the word is manifestation. We're all about manifesting. But she said, if you want to demonstrate healing, never consider the negative side. Always look to health and life in every situation and let that flow. And in the wisdom, the infinite wisdom of Spirit, Spirit will reveal to you where there's a little kink in the hose of your thinking. I was saying, then you want to gently massage the kink out of the hose so that you have that free flow of life and health in every part of your body. Faith has open eyes. It has the power to see. Your faith has the power to see into the invisible realm and to see certain things that really exist in this realm. And they become substantial and real when you continue to see what's real in the invisible and you live what's real in spiritual truth. She said it this way: faith has open eyes. It has the power to see certain things do exist in spirit, and they become substantial and real to the one who thinks and lives in loyalty to the divine idea. So you see into the spiritual realm with eyes of faith. You see perfect life, perfect health, perfect wholeness, perfect harmony, perfect love. You see that with your eyes of faith. And when you're loyal to that spiritual ideal, you bring it into your life, right? And it's a discipline, isn't it? It's a spiritual practice to stay out of, oh, I got lower back pain. Oh, I have 3 migraines a month. Oh, to stay out of that and to continue to know that your eyes of faith are seeing the truth of spirit. You can be whatever you determine to be by your faith, and your faith is built up by its loyalty to the divine ideal. And when you come into the study of truth, the 5 basic ideals that unity talks about are life, love, wisdom, power, and substance. So whatever's going on in your life, you take the ideal of that. If you need healing, you take the idea of life. If you need strength, you take the idea of power. If you want to have a wonderful, loving relationship, you take the idea of love. If you need more money in your life, you want your finances to be in better shape, you take the divine idea of substance. And you see into the realm of spirit, and you hold to that, you're loyal to that idea regardless of appearances, regardless of what your checking account says, regardless of what your bank statements say, regardless of the diagnosis and the x-rays and the MRIs and all of that. You hold to that ideal, your faith is loyal to it, and it quickens a vibration in you that begins to shift and change things within you. Her second letter, let's see. Some of these people that she's writing to have been, over the years, were longtime Unity students that as you've walked around the halls of Unity at the world headquarters, these people are known. Dear Mrs. McAllister, we are so glad to learn more of you and to know that you are enjoying and gaining some spiritual food by studying our Unity literature. Now, to refer to the condition from which you desire freedom, there is no such thing as a disease or an incurable condition in the system. Dorothy Pearson always used to say incurable just means it's inner curable, not anything in the outer, that it's something inside you that needs to be cured, shifted, adjusted, and blessed. There is no such thing as a disease or an incurable condition in the system. These activities or weaknesses or abnormalities to which the medical profession gives names are but efforts of the God-given inner intelligence to deal with conditions which have been produced by failure to understand the truth and to recognize yourself as a perfect child of God. Did you get that? The abnormalities, the weaknesses, whatever's showing up in your body has been produced. It's the efforts of the God-given inner intelligence to say, hello, there's something here that's out of alignment with spiritual truth. And to get back on track, you want to see with the eyes of faith into the invisible realm, the ideal of life and health, and bring that into your life. God-given inner intelligence to deal with conditions which have been produced by failure to understand the truth and to recognize yourself as a perfect child of God. Anything, she says, which does not measure up to the Christ pattern of perfection can be changed. Do you believe it? Or you believe it a little bit? Or you believe it in this instance, but maybe not that? You believe that it works for others, but it just somehow doesn't seem to work for you. Anything, she doesn't differentiate, anything which does not measure up to the Christ pattern of perfection can be changed. Anything which the ideas of God mind expressing in your mind have not produced can be dissolved into the original nothingness by understanding and application of the power of spiritual thought. Right thinking, prayer and right thinking. That's all of Unity's foundation. Where am I here? Let's just admit that the doctors are judging by appearances, founding their opinions upon the study of effects, and drawing the conclusions from the outworking of these mistakes, which the individuals have made and continue to make. No one who has awakened spiritually and is seeing in the light of truth would speak of disease as something of itself. He would not think for a moment that the mind was fixed in old beliefs, nor that his body was unresponsive to spirit. You can't think your body is unresponsive to spirit. You can't judge by appearances. She says, and so, we are asking you to deliberately turn from the doctor's opinions and verdict. Now, let me put a parenthesis here. Unity believes in doctors. They believe in the infinite intelligence in the physician to be able to look inside and diagnose conditions. We don't say don't go to the doctor. We say go first to God and then to man as God directs. Go first to God and then to your inner cure as God directs. So she says, we're asking you to deliberately turn from the doctor's opinions and verdict and cease to even think of the name they gave the condition which existed at the time of their examination and treatment. Oh, I have cancer. Oh, I have diabetes. She says, don't forget that. Cast out and forget their assumption that this condition would not be changed and done away with completely. And then begin at once to rejoice that you are the offspring of God. Can you feel it? We're the offspring of God. That your life and the substance of your body and the perfect pattern of that life and body are gifts from God. Gifts which are in reality inseparably one with you. They are the very essence of God life and God substance and God intelligence sourcing you. Sourcing you. We know very well that God would not create you with imperfections and shortcomings and diseased conditions. So, we are accepting the God-given perfection for you. And we are waving aside the past mistakes and untrue suggestions and fixing undivided attention upon spiritual treatment. We bring all the mental attitudes and all the centers of consciousness and even the physical structures to the high place in mind where we see as God sees and where we name all that is within you according to the pattern of God's perfection. Everything in you is perfect. Do you believe it? Then we prayerfully consider all of our living habits. You know, the Fillmores were vegetarians. They were very much into health and life that's so popular today, you know, with healthy eating and organic eating. So I threw this in here just as a reminder. Then we prayerfully consider all our living habits to get a better understanding of their purposes and to know whether or not they are really according with the divine life of health. We consider whether or not we are worrying or fearing anything. We look back of the conscious mind into the realm of the subconscious or memory to determine whether there's anything which took place in the past that's continuing to be a disturbing influence. Many things we do daily are not consciously thought out, are but the continuation of something that was impressed upon us long ago. And we set to work to change any and everything which we may find that does not measure up to the best that our new light is showing us. Mrs. Walker spoke of diet, which is one of these living habits which most of us have formed in ignorance of what's best for us. We find that in most all so-called chronic disturbances and cases of long-standing illness, there is a need for changing some of the living habits, and diet is usually one of them. She goes on then and talks more about, oh, there's a guy in Kansas City and we do spiritual, but he does physical, on and on. So, Myrtle, you can see her teaching Unity's principles because that was kind of the way then. Now we come to Sunday gatherings to get instruction. We take courses online. We do all kinds of things to learn these principles. That you are God's perfection expressing, and anything that disturbs that or gets in the way of that has to be routed out. And it's routed out by your alignment with the divine ideal, right? We know this. We know this. All of you have been here 40 plus years. You know this. So, in Unity we teach that we do not think of our bodies as bundles of flesh and bone and glands and organs and blood vessels, but as the temple of the indwelling Spirit of God. We are temples of God. Let's put our hands on our hearts right now and say, I am God's temple. Together, I am God's temple. Right. Right, so what's your infrastructure look like, you know? The body is the fruit of the mind, and to spiritualize all our thinking is the way to permanent healing. In Unity we teach that studying truth, we can learn to cleanse our mind and our body of anything, so that the outpicturing of what we hold in consciousness is an outpicturing of God's perfection. When we're not manifesting health and life as we desire it to be, it's because our thoughts and our conversations, oh, my aching back, oh, I didn't sleep well last night, oh, I'm such an insomniac, oh, I did blah, blah, blah. It's because our thoughts and our conversations are not in accord with the divine ideas of life. In Unity we teach every time we think life, speak life, and give thanks for life, that we're bringing into expression in our bodies the ideal of divine life. In Unity we teach that when you think of your life as spirit-filled energy, that every faculty within you becomes a buzz, was the word, buzz with new life. So we think life, talk life, see ourselves healthy and well. I've been, I don't want to say struggling, I've been facing a certain condition in my body, you know, and it's like, I can't give it any power. I was driving with Phil, we used to carpool here. You know, I was driving with him one time and he said something, or we played golf together, I guess it's golf, and I can't always see where my ball lands. Not that I drive so far, but my distance vision is improving. And so we were in the car talking about something, and I just said out loud, I said, I don't talk about this very much, but I'm not seeing well right now. You know, you can't even give it any words. It's just my vision is improving every day in every way. I am divine life. My eyes, Myrtle's affirmation, my eyes are clear eyes, bright eyes. They see with the light of spirit. You see, but you can't give any power to that. You know, I mean, you go first to God and then to man as God directs. So yes, you go get your eyes checked and you do the contact lenses or the whatever you need. But all the while you're working with the perfection of life. In Unity we teach we can never manifest a desirable physical state while entertaining an undesirable mental state. Because we're not a body containing a mind, we are mind beings operating through a body. You're a mind being operating through a body. In 1930, at 85 years old, Myrtle taught 4 weeks in Unity summer school, and then she said she felt tired and she was going to go home to rest. But prior to doing that, she walked through every department at Unity School and spoke to each employee. And she went home and went upstairs into her bedroom and passed 3 days later. She said she felt that she was getting a revelation that she could work better from the other side, that she could do her work better from the other side. So I want to close with just one more of her letters and invite you to take it in as if she were speaking to you directly, and feel her prayers of healing life. Feel this work that's gone on since prior to the Civil War, this consciousness that's landed on the planet and been permeating the possibilities of total wholeness and healing. I'm going to ask Sharon to play a little bit of music behind me while we read her words, and you can get into the feeling nature of wholeness and life. She said, "Those who make the demonstrations you read about are the ones who do not doubt or question the power of God to bless them. They are the ones who are full of faith in God and who gather up their doubts and center them in spiritual truth. It is faith in the healing power of God within that sets in motion the healing process. And your courageous and loving and trustful attitude of mind and heart sets up a new activity and allows the pure, harmonious flow of life, which clears up your body and gives new strength to every part of you. It is God within you which works the healing. Remember that there is only one presence, and that expression of that one presence, God, in individual consciousness, is your health. Remember, the opinions of doctors are daily annulled by those who work with spiritual law. Every day we get reports from people who have proved the healing power of God. It isn't that our prayers do anything magical. We simply hold you in the truth, in the consciousness to help you, to remind you to place your faith in God, the omnipresent good. And we encourage you to use your mind to lay hold of and use this good. It is your own constructive and courageous centering of your mind in the power of the Christ mind, which lays hold of and shapes the qualities of being that will meet your needs. It is alignment with Spirit which determines your success, your satisfaction, and your freedom from all worry and anxiety. Here are the words I wrote in 1890, the first words to be held in silent thought. The first words to be held in silent thought. God is all goodness and everywhere present. He is the loving Creator, and I am His child. And I have all of His attributes of life, love, truth, and intelligence. In God is all health, all strength, all wisdom, all harmony. And as His child, all these become mine by a recognition of the truth that God is all. God is all. By recognition of the truth that God is all. And so it is. Amen. God bless you.